my thoughts about the student loan forgiveness or the lack thereof as someone who graduated school with over $220,000 worth of debt. Now, I will say this is not the norm. I graduated with a doctorate degree, so I do have a little bit more debt than most people who just have a 4-year degree. With that said, I personally believe that it is no one's place to pay my loans but me. Some of y'all have forgotten what the word loan means. A loan is meant to be paid back by the borrower, not by someone else, not by raising somebody else's taxes. You chose to take out that loan. It is your place to pay it back. You are not entitled to forgiveness. I know this may rub people the wrong way, but I would rather pay on my loans for 10 years than to pay on everybody's loans for the rest of my life. Y'all really got me on here talking with pimple patches on my face because I have seen one too many TikToks about this topic tonight and how y'all are so mad because no one's going to forgive the loan that you took out. It's a loan. The problem is not the loan. The problem is the rising rates of tuition. For each year that I was in school, tuition rose at least $1,000 a year. Now ask me what additional resources I received each year as a result of that $1,000 tuition increase. I'll tell you none. You're mad at the government when you should be mad at the universities. You shouldn't have to take out a mortgage-sized loan to get an education. And let's face it, no one has over $200,000 just sitting around to go to school with.
I have $75,000 worth of student loan debt, and I'm not stressing. I don't feel bad for having to take out that amount of money. Statistically, I understand why I had to take out that amount of money. Could I have paid for college in a different way? Yes, but I don't ever regret the college that I went to, the decisions I made while I was in college, or any of that. I don't regret anything about college, just how I paid for it. Do I wish that I was a little bit more tenacious and applied to more scholarships and all of those kind of things? Yes. But I want people to be very fucking for real. I was the youngest of 6 children, and there was no other way for me to be able to afford school. And I'm super, super grateful for my parents. They put me on the Parent Plus loan, which a lot of people can't even qualify for, because they believed in me, they believed in my dreams, and they knew that this is what I needed to make it to the other side. So during this time where there's a lot of turmoil, we don't really know what's happening with student loans and the payoff. Some of us really only had 2 choices, and that was either no college or student loans. I want to remind any person who is like me, you did what you had to do. And from there, you have to keep it moving. Keep striving, keep doing the things that we have to do, because we had to make a hard decision. There is no shame in borrowing money, because rich people do it all the fucking time. No shame in borrowing money to create the life that you need to in the long run.
Okay, there are a handful of comments on the last couple videos that I've posted with this sentiment that people who can't afford to pay upfront for an expensive university shouldn't go, or that it's a dumb decision. I want to make one thing clear. I do not regret taking out student loans to go to Notre Dame at all. In fact, I actually think that it was one of the smartest decisions that I made as an 18-year-old. The idea that the only people that should go to expensive elite universities in the United States are the people with families that have the wealth to afford it is ignorant. For many people, going to a good university is the most effective way to improve social mobility. And that is proven. Are there great options that are cheaper than Notre Dame? 100%. But Notre Dame was the best option for me. So instead of telling people to only go to colleges that they can afford upfront, let's focus on making college more affordable, or addressing predatory practices by loan providers, or capping interest rates. There are ways to fix this, and it's not blaming the 18-year-olds that are taking out thousands of dollars of loans. And I stand by that.
I think my schooling cost like $120,000.
For what? For what?
For a degree in fashion design. How ridiculous is that?
Oh, where? Private institute? Probably. Out of state? Maybe. Where? What?
International Academy of Design and Technology in Chicago. I initially was going to go to the Art Institute, but couldn't afford that. So I downgraded.
Can't afford this. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
The payment there was probably something like $600 a month. Have you ever paid one? When's the last time you paid on your private student loans?
I don't know.
Do you have Credit Karma on your phone?
Yeah, probably.
Pull it up.
It's an app, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We're able to bring in the boyfriend for the post show? He's here in the green room?
Yeah, he needs to know.
Oh, what? He needs to know. He doesn't know?
I mean, we don't have conjoined finances, so
What does he know?
he sees the packages.
Oh, good. This is going to be interesting.
Today, I'm trying something new. This is my last-ditch effort. I am drowning in student debt. I have over $75,000 in student debt, and I'm not even done with school. Please stay to the end of this video, as it would help me tremendously. So here's what I'm doing. I saw this girl who paid off all of her student loans, all of her debt, all from filming TikTok videos. How crazy is that? I decided, why not give it a try? So all I need to do is post at least 1 minute long videos. Those qualify for like a paycheck. This is episode 1 of trying to pay off my student loans. It would help a lot if you liked, comment, or shared this video. That would boost this video out to different FYPs. I'm hoping I can start paying off my student loans soon. Other than that, if there's any other content that you want to see, also put that in the comments. I do want to know what you guys want to look at and what content you want to see. Hopefully this is the start of something new. But I'll see you guys in the next one.
So I'm 33, and growing up, it was drilled into our heads. You gotta go to college if you want a middle-class job. And we even tell kids today, look, if you don't go to college, you might as well get a face tattoo. And then they point to Post Malone, and we're like, okay, that's one guy. He's a very popular musician. But it's true, 2/3 of all jobs in America require at least some college. This is the standard now. And that wasn't the case when most members of this committee were in school. And you paid far less for your degrees. That's not speculation. We looked up where the 60 members of this committee went to college and what your school's tuition was at that time. Even adjusting for inflation, college cost way less across the board. So, Chairwoman Maxine Waters, your tuition at Cal State LA in 1971 was the equivalent of about $1,000 a year. Today, Cal State costs well over $6,000. That's more than a 500% jump. Congressman King, right? In 1965, Congressman King paid the equivalent of almost $10,000 a year at St. Francis College. Today, St. Francis costs over $25,000. On average, this entire committee graduated from college 33 years ago and paid an inflation-adjusted tuition of $11,690 a year. Today, the average tuition at all of your same schools is almost $25,000. That's a 110% increase over a period of time when wages have gone up only 16%. So people aren't making more money, and college is objectively way more expensive. Do you see what's happened? We've put up a paywall to the middle class. And if there's one thing Americans don't deserve more of, it's paywalls. Now, despite these numbers, you often hear the idea, these kids wouldn't be in trouble if they just took some responsibility. But they're trying to be responsible. They're investing in education, and they are trying to pay their loans back. And yet many borrowers are still treated like deadbeats because the government has put their financial futures in the hands of predatory, for-profit loan servicing companies. Companies like Navient and other companies you will hear from today have a history of misleading borrowers and pushing them into repayment plans that in some cases have cost individual borrowers tens of thousands of dollars in unnecessary interest. And the worst part is, borrowers don't even get to choose their loan servicer. The Department of Education chooses for you. So there's no competition that makes these companies provide better service. Now look, we know the deck is stacked against student borrowers in ways that it wasn't 10 or even 15 years ago. And they deserve some basic protections. Americans should not have to go bankrupt pursuing higher education, and they should never be preyed upon by underregulated loan servicing companies. So members of this committee, we know the government is capable of stepping in during a financial crisis. So really all I'm asking today is, why can't we treat our student borrowers the way we treat our banks? Because 44 million Americans, that is too big to fail. Thank you so much for your time, and I will now go back to where I came from.
I graduated with approximately $500,000 worth of student loan debt. These are my thoughts on the skyrocketing monthly payments. When I was in school, we actually had like a couple-hour seminar on student loan debt and how you can go around repaying it. It could either be through working for a nonprofit where you make way less money, but at the time they had promised that the loans would be forgiven after 10 years. The other way was to do income-based repayment. And during the seminar at my school, I raised a lot of concern. I told people around me, and I also asked the professors, like, hey, the administration changes every 4 years. How are you guaranteeing that this works for people in the future? And honestly, I did not believe it at all. I was very lucky that I was one of the few that was not duped, but with that much student loan, I knew I needed an action plan. I decided to just do my own plan, and so I decided to move to a state that had no state income tax, and I worked my butt off. So I would work around 12 to 16 hours, 5 days a week, and then on the weekends, I would go and substitute into other clinics and work there. So essentially, I was working 6 to 7 days a week, most weeks the first couple years that I graduated. And this is not ideal for everybody. But in my mind, I had a burdensome amount of debt that I knew I had to repay. And so I worked my butt off to get a lot of that paid down in the first 2 years alone. I had no work-life balance. It was actually very stressful and very horrible. But in my mind, I had taken out these student loans, and so I needed to repay them, and I didn't feel comfortable or confident relying on the government or anybody else to like save me from my own student loans. A lot of people are coerced into taking out high student loans without really understanding the implications of it, and that's something that needs to be addressed. Institutions also need to be held more accountable. Like, there is no reason why a school should be charging hundreds of thousands of dollars to get through and start your career.
When you get out of debt, I'm just letting you know right now, it shows. That same part of you that kind of liked being able to show off with the money and the pool and doing all those things, that same part of you that liked showing that, that's going to be the part that hurts the most when you show the opposite, which is we're downsizing our cars and we're downsizing and we're selling things and we don't go out as much and I don't buy the things that I used to buy. Your family's going to see it, your friends are going to see it, you're going to feel it, and that's just part of the process. Don't let that deter you. That's how you know it's working. That's how you know the medicine's getting in.
This is how I paid off $100,000 in debt in 2 years. This is all the result of taking on student loans that I couldn't afford, moving into an apartment that I couldn't afford, and taking out a loan for a new car that I couldn't afford. So the first thing I did, made a budget. Turns out I was going further into debt every single month. So then I immediately eliminated every want from my budget. It was a bit harsh, but I needed to do it. And I traded in my new car for a van with 120,000 miles on it so I could get rid of that car payment. For years, I was Dan with the van. Then I got a job on the side as a brand ambassador making $30 an hour. I do it every day on the weekends and once a week after work. I used all that money to pay off my credit card debt. I wasn't using that money for anything else. Then I moved in with 5 roommates. Pretty crazy, but it actually saved me over $1,000 a month. Living with roommates is a great way to get your rent down. Over the course of those 2 years, I invested a ton into my career that ended up helping me get promotions that resulted in about $40,000 more a year. And look, it wasn't easy. I said no to a lot of things, but I knew the whole time that that was going to be temporary. Those sacrifices that I made over those 2 years, while they were hard, it made it so I didn't have to carry debt for the next 20 years.
I remember paying off my 36 grand in student loans, and I was Ubering, I was lifting, I was living on lean cuisines, Jay, and I got lean. I'll tell you, I was lean, and I was doing everything I could to get rid of that debt as fast as possible. And it was so freeing to not have to wait on someone else to do it for me. And so make a plan, get on a budget, do what it takes, come celebrate with us when you're debt free, and we'll celebrate the fact that you're not waiting on no man, no woman, no politician to change your life.
It's all
you
on
are the
you.
secret sauce, America.
I am completely debt free. I have paid off all my student loans, and I wanted to give y'all a couple tips that I use to help me get here, because I know it can be a little daunting sometimes. So just to start this off, I want to say that I came from a very lower middle class background. My parents could not help me literally with anything when it came to school. And then secondly, I had the money to pay off my loans before the interest started accruing after the pause, but I didn't because I was investing money and waiting. Mind you, I was still in school at this time. So you can do this without making a lot of money. I make way more money now than I did before because I was working random odd jobs, but it's very much possible. Number one, most importantly, you need to be budgeting. If you don't know where your money is going, what are you doing? You're confused, you're lost. I have a template that I had been using and I think that it really was beneficial. You need to know exactly where every single dollar and cent goes every month to make sure that you're allocating them properly. Secondly, you just need to be in the aggressive saver mindset. So for example, when I was in college, sometimes I would say, okay, I have $50 for the week. That's all is getting spent. I'm not buying any cookout. I'm not going out to dinner with my friends. I'm so sorry, y'all. This $50 is going to be spent on gas and I don't know, I might need some deodorant that week. That's it. And on top of that, this is more like advice for women, but every time I was dating a guy and he would give me some money, whatever he gave me the money for, I would save it. I was not spending it because I had a plan. And I said, okay, I need to pay this off. I can go more in depth if y'all want me to, but I think that those are really like the main pushers to being able to pay that debt off.
I'm officially done with my student loans and I ended up paying $31,724 in 2 years. Let's talk about how I did it. For starters, I had an advantage because I actually ended up living at home for 2 years. So after graduation, I didn't go get some swanky apartment with my okay salary. I lived at home with my parents and I stacked my bread the entire time. Like I was making good money, but I had myself on the strictest budget. I think I only would spend like $200 every 2 weeks. So $100 every week. I was not playing. I was not going over that budget. So like 95% of my salary for about a year and a half went to my student loans immediately. Like that to me just wasn't even my money. But I do remember when I first graduated from college, I put a couple $1,000s away into a high yield savings account and just let that sit for a while. In the 2.5 years that I've let that money just sit there, it has grown exponentially. Like it's actually crazy. So when it was time to make that like final $5,000 payment, I was just like, yep, I'm just gonna take that money from my high yield savings account and we're just gonna be done with it. Like Joe Biden, I am done with you. There were definitely trips I missed out on, experiences I passed on because I was saving my money. Like don't get me wrong, I definitely had to sacrifice a lot of experiences to be done with my student loans. But being debt free at 25, I feel like there's no better feeling than that.
Today was a regular day until I paid off all my student loans. No thanks to the president, but shout outs to God. I think I started at $50K and initially I was only paying $300 to $400 down each month. But then I started doing these 3 things. I started saying no more often. Saying no to birthday dinners and birthday trips meant saying yes to myself and my goals. I found a side gig I enjoy doing, which is creating content, and that paycheck went directly to my loans every single time I got paid. So I was paying about 4 to 5 figures. I surrounded myself with like-minded people who encouraged me to keep going. This one is really important because having the right people in your circle will help you become the person you desire to be. And I was actually the last person in the group to get there, so now we can celebrate our new era as debt-free babes.
Student loans. How do we accumulate $63,975 in student loans?
I went to hair school.
Where'd you go to school again?
First, I went to Palm Beach State and then A&M.
Okay.
I got my associate's degree out of state
Community
in Florida.
college?
Yes, sir.
Why'd you go somewhere where you had to pay out of state tuition?
I was living in Florida.
So why was it out of state then?
In Texas, I paid out of state.
Oh, sorry.
The first
Okay.
semester.
Yeah.
$8,000 per class.
How long were you in college?
Like 7 years.
Did you get a master's?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, there's rough ways to go about college. I think you went about a rough way, and that's why I'm such a big advocate for like tech certifications through course careers and trade schools. And
I did. I went to hair school first.
then
Pick
you did
something.
the 7 years of university and borrowed a lot of money. Okay. All
I
right.
actually really love what I do now.
Oh, that's great. What was your degree?
Geography, and then I minored in GIS and sociology.
Oh, that's great. There are just still smarter ways to go about school than the way you did it.
This probably shouldn't be said out loud, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I've been like thinking for days and days and days about how I'm gonna figure out the student loan payment. And the worst part about my student loans is that $150,000 of it is a Parent Plus loan. And it's my student loan debt, so my parents are not going to pay it. I have to pay it. But like, that's not debt that I can just die to get out of. That's like the easiest solution, and it's not something I can even do. And it's so frustrating.
I want to talk about student loans real quick because I just found out something that is so frustrating. This is my current student loan balance, $21,444. My original amount was $28,500. So you can see I've already paid off around $7,000 worth of my student loans, which yes, I am really proud of. But I felt like I was doing everything correctly, and today I called up my student loan servicer, Ed Financial, and I said, hey, I just want to make sure that my overage that I am paying every month, because the amount that they quoted me that I should be paying towards my student loans every month is $250. At least somewhere around there. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do the right thing and I'm going to pay $500 a month. I'm going to double it and pay $500 a month. So I'm paying off that principal faster. And while yes, I'm paying off that principal a little bit faster, the lady that I spoke with on the phone told me that I can't actually choose where that payment goes. So even though I'm paying $250 extra, I can't say put that amount towards my principal. And the reason being that these numbers that they set saying, here, this is the suggested amount that we think that you should pay towards your student loan is usually only really covering the bare minimum. And the reason that they do this is so that you're still accruing interest. And if you have unpaid interest because you're paying so low on your loans, that interest will then start accruing interest. And even though you're making these payments, your loan amount is going to keep going up because the interest accrues interest, and it's just a never-ending cycle. So I went in and looked, and you can see here, this is my last payment. I paid $500, $318 of that went towards my principal, around $181 went towards my interest. And if you can see here, back in October, I paid $223 in interest, which is only $25 less than my payment. And so I asked her on the phone, I said, hey, what's going on with that? And she said, you actually have unpaid interest. And I was like, okay, yeah, you know what? That makes sense. But I didn't realize my interest was accruing interest because I have these unsubsidized loans. So even though I graduated in 2020, right into a forbearance period, this still had interest from when I was in college. So I said, okay, great. That's definitely my bad. I didn't really realize that. But can I pay that unpaid interest now so that it stops accruing more interest? And she said, actually, no. Just like the fact that you can't go in and say, put this money towards my principal, you also can't go in and say, okay, put this money towards my unpaid interest. So even though today I have $229 of unpaid interest, I can't say, here, Ed Financial, here's $229 to cover that unpaid interest. So that unpaid interest will continue accruing interest until my loans are completely paid off. And this is the root of the entire problem right here. It is my money. It is my loan. I should be able to say where it goes. Obviously within reason. I understand it's a loan. I understand it's accruing interest. But if I have unpaid interest, I should be able to say, here is the money. Please pay the interest. Or just be transparent with me about where my money is going, what is supposed to be paid, and how to pay it.
We have 68,000 people over the age of 62 who are still paying their crippling student loans. Student loan payments for federal loans are now due again. For 4 years, those federal loans were paused, but they're not paused anymore. It is estimated that millions of borrowers are going to have their credit hit this summer because they have not started making the payments again. In Georgia, we have 1.7 million student loan borrowers. Nationally, we have 47 million students who have borrowed. And many people feel like they will be paying their entire life.
I knew it was going to be expensive. Me going back to school might have been really, really bad. I've done one semester at George Mason so far. I took out $12,000 of loans to do 5 classes. And out summer classes are going to be way more expensive because they don't have the same amount of aid in the summer. So I'm like, great, now I can't make this go faster than I wanted it to. Basically, my first semester was a spring semester. I applied and I was really rushed to try to get away to school. I turned 25 and I needed to go. If I wasn't going then, I wasn't going at all. When I got the real number for how much it was going to cost to go to George Mason, I cried and told my dad, like, I'm going now or I'm not going ever. I was just gonna have to be okay with how much loans I was taking out. It was more than I thought because I had misunderstood the tuition breakdown. What I had thought was for 2 years, a full year, was actually per semester. So that was not fun to find out. Right before I was about to go, I found out how much I was getting and how much I'd have to pay. I took out $12,000 of loans to pay for like probably $11,000 in tuition. Just tuition, by the way. I'm living at my aunt's for free. So there was however much tuition cost. I got a $5,000 grant from George Mason, an out-of-state grant. I got almost $4,000 of a Pell Grant and like $500 of something else, and that's it. The rest, so that's how much I had to pay. Whatever tuition cost minus that, that's what I had to pay. And then I got $12,000 of loans available. Not money, not grants, whatever, like money I owe back. I just found out this morning when I talked to financial aid that that loan amount is actually for the entire year and not per semester. I didn't know that because I was applying in spring, so everything was just applied in spring. I didn't know that this needed to be split between both fall and spring when I'm doing an entire year. I told my dad that this morning and I'm like, okay, great, whatever. Now there's going to be like $5,000 in the fall that I can't afford because I won't even have the loans available, and I do not want to take out private loans. And so I thought about that and I was like, you know what, it's probably better that way. Like, this is an estimate, but I'll figure out how to pay what I owe in the fall, and then I'll have less loans that will be like hanging over my head, even though it'll be harder in the fall and in the spring when that money is due. I was looking into it more, and the $5,000 grant is also for an entire year. $5,000 in the spring because I was only doing half of the year in the spring, but now I'm gonna have to split that $5,000 between fall and spring, so that's over $2,000 more that it's going to cost me. Am I wrong to think that the $5,000 would be every semester because I got it all in spring? I just feel like this was a bad idea. I didn't want to stay in New Jersey because I really needed to go somewhere else. I really wanted to be close to DC and like move out and do something for the first time. If I had started school in New Jersey, I'd be stuck there. Oh, it's so expensive. And this is what I would always say when people would ask me if I was going to go back to school. I'd always say that I was going to wait until I'm 24 and then I can file as an independent and, you know, get way more money. And I guess technically I did, but not even. To take me 2.5 years. Not all my credits transferred. I can't do it faster because of the summer classes. I can't even think about how much it's going to cost me to finish a bachelor's. I have an associate's. I can't afford this. And who knows what's going to happen with his administration. There's literally warnings on FAFSA. Watch for court rulings and stuff. Don't want to come out of school with $50,000, $60,000 in debt after going to school for 2 years, not even for any living expenses, any transportation, any food. I was hoping to one day within the 2.5 years that I'll be here to move out my own place because I'll be 27. How am I supposed to be full-time, completely full-time in school, still don't have my bachelor's yet, and be making enough money to pay for this stuff and live somewhere? What's the solution here? Like, I want to finish it. I want the degree, but it's so fucking expensive. I don't know. Somebody tell me what to do. I also don't want to spread it out and take a couple classes at a time and maybe not be full-time. Because I need the degree. I need the bachelor's to be a teacher. It'll just be delaying a career. So I guess if there's any scholarships you can think of.